Welcome everyone to this Facebook and Twitter live chat with Commissioner Elżbieta Bieńkowska. We're here today to discuss the future of the single market with you. And Commissioner, how about setting the scene with some first comments?
First, I want to say that I'm really glad and happy to have this opportunity to share some views about the single market with those who use Facebook. This is important. They are mostly younger people, and for younger people, as single market is now, we are now celebrating 25th anniversary of the single market. It's really still, we do not, especially youngsters, they do not see that it's not given for granted, that this is something really that we have in our hands in Europe, really powerful economic tool. But it's not only about the economy, it's about freedom. It's about freedom to live where you want, to work where you want, to provide your services or to establish your business where you want in Europe. This is a market of 500 million consumers. I keep repeating this because this is really a huge number. And there is no other such a market globally. The United States have 300-something million. So we have to use it for our best benefits. And why we are here and why the Commissioner for Single Market for so many years? Because we do not really grasp all of the benefits of this. We still have a market, especially for services. We still have a market of 28 mini markets, starting from 90 million consumers market in Germany to 500,000 consumers market in Malta. But it's still very separated, and it's still really not the full. We are not using the full benefits of this as an economic, but also a tool for our citizens, for all of us. And as I said, especially young people think that it's something normal, that it's given for granted for them. It's not. We need still have to discuss with the others. We have to discuss with the member states. Of course, I understand. I'm finishing in a moment. Of course, I understand that, for example, in the times of crisis in Europe, this big crisis, 2008, 9, 10, there were some, people thinking about protecting their own markets. But now, as we have such powerful tool, and we are not using it to build our competitiveness to the others globally, because we need to cooperate with the others, but we need to be more competitive than the others globally. And to build this, the single market really is the most powerful tool. So this is for start.
Thank you. And we can turn to your questions, starting with a number of comments on Facebook of people who say they never actually realized the full benefits of the single market, as you were saying yourself. So what would be your advice, and perhaps also what's your personal experience?
People sometimes confuse single market, and I did it many years ago. They confuse it with Schengen area, so the open borders, and we are talking about open economic borders, not physical borders, at the at the airports or as you cross the border by your car. They sometimes confuse it with the Erasmus things, so with the university exchange, because you can easily study. But it's not this. This is about really, for example, paying not the same price, because price, of course, can be different, but you must be treated not despite your nationality, despite your location, despite where you sit on your computer, you have to be treated equally in Europe. So, for example, maybe some of you remember our case with Disneyland, when Disneyland really priced differently people from different member states. So the highest prices were for those who were from UK, then was German, and then some others. And it was done both as you were buying your tickets online and at the cashier desks. So after our intervention, and of course it was not easy, because we had to really check it whether this is true, because we have to have evidence, and we had it. We really our services tried to work at their best and try to find out what are the differences in pricing at Disneyland. And now Disneyland has changed their attitude, and the prices are the same for everybody in Europe. Because of course prices in the shops, they can be different. It still depends on the market, on the citizens, on the consumers. But as you are buying in one place, whenever, online, offline, in physical cashier desk, you must be priced the same price.
We have a debate on Twitter between Vera and Luca about the benefits of the single market. And Luca is in particular worried about social dumping. And they are asking whether the single market is to blame.
Of course not. Of course not. In this mandate of this Commission, but generally, European Commission for years was working and is working, and we in the European institutions, we are working to have, in some perspective, the same standards of living standards in all of the member states. So in this Commission, in this mandate, we are taking this twofold. So one thing is really strengthening the single market. It's very important for businesses, it's very important for citizens, it's very important for consumers, for citizens, for example, recognition of their professional qualifications. But on the other hand, it's very, and I hope everybody recognize it, we are very strong as about the social pillar of our work. We did few things, few changes in the legislation, also a piece of a new legislation to have this social standards, again, the same all over Europe. And I want to underline that still Europe, both from the economic perspective, but also from the social perspective, is really, sorry, maybe it's too big words, but I need to say it. This is still the best place to live globally, you know, and we are very much strengthening the social part of our activities.
Then we have some other commentators on Facebook asking whether the single market and also the customs union are protectionist measures, whether we're shielding ourselves excessively from the rest of the world.
No. We are, again, we keep repeating, or at least some colleagues of mine and me personally in this college, in this commission, we will never build a wall around Europe, never ever. Cooperation with the others is our biggest asset. We want to cooperate, we want to have a clear trade agreements. What we want to have is the situation when those two tools, so customs and single market, are not used against member states between them. This is the most important. We need to keep ourselves together as a bloc, because otherwise we will never be competitive to the others. I mean, we will never be better, because, as I said, the biggest national market in the EU is Germany. It's 90 million people. Of course, it's a powerful economy, but still not to be competitive to American market and to Southeastern Asia. So we have to keep ourselves together. This is nothing about protectionism towards the others. Of course, we observe what is going on globally and how the others want to protect themselves. But Europe will not act like this. We will not build the walls. We will cooperate, but again, keeping ourselves stronger.
Walter or Walter on Facebook asks, what kind of action can the Commission take when big companies break the rules of the single market?
This is what we are working on. Very good question. Thank you very much for this. This is what we are working on, because, of course, we have some tools in our hand. If member states, I'm starting with the member states, if member states do not apply or do not implement or do not use the rules that are in the, for example, Services Directive, we have our enforcement tools. So we can put an infringement or start an infringement procedures. With the companies, for example, competition law or commissioner responsible for competition, they have such tools. They can ask directly big companies, whether, you know, the things that are needed to know to have this very well evidence-based position. In our case, in the single market, as a single market commissioner, I do not have for now such tools. So even if I know, if I have the information from the small companies, for example, that some big companies really is breaking the rules of the single market, I really do not have a tool to ask this company what they are doing. Hopefully they will not lie, but we are just working on this. So we are working now on, we call it Single Market Information Tool, so SMIT. So the tool exactly the same as the competition commissioner or competition services have in their hands to really to have this possibility to ask company, what are your action at the single market? For now, we do not have it, or a company can refuse if we are sending the question. So I think it's very important. Of course, the range of the question will be very limited because it's raised a lot of concerns, you know, whether we are about for example, business secrets or, you know, this kind of things. But the range of the questions will be very limited. We will try to really to keep it, not even try, we will keep it internal in the Commission. So it's everything, you know, is guaranteed that the response will not be available for everybody. But we need to have such a tool. We need to have it. This is to the benefit of the smaller companies if they see that somebody is really breaking single market rules, and we do not have a base to really to act and to act against them.
So then this law that the EU recently passed that will allow the Commission to impose fines on car manufacturers, that's quite a game changer.
The legislation is not there yet because we are, as you probably know, this is a long way from the initiative of the Commission. Then we discuss it in the Commission to have it safe and to have everything well justified. Why we need this new legislation, especially this Commission, takes it very seriously, not to put additional burdens and not to propose additional legislation, because I personally think that we have so many European legislation that the new one is not needed. If not, it's really needed urgently. So this one is, I think, very much needed. So we are at the moment when the Commission finalize, we finalize our proposal. We gave it to the Parliament. Parliament is discussing now, and then the Council, so the Member States. So still it's a few steps to go. But you are right. We are hopefully on a good track with this.
Mm-hmm. We are being asked on Twitter, or you're being asked on Twitter, how the Commission can ensure a favourable framework that supports our industry.
This is a question.
This
is a question like ocean, yes. Because first, I think we built a very good base for this. We prepared ourselves really for almost 2 years to adopt European industrial strategy. We were pushed very much for this. Of course, you need to propose something. I thought that we must be prepared. So first, we must have this link and the contacts and the same understanding with the stakeholder, especially industry, especially companies, because they are living with this. And, you know, they will invest, or they will have to invest in some new, mostly digitalized tool. We are living in a really the biggest, the fastest industrial revolution we are undergoing everywhere globally. The biggest, the most substantial, the fastest industrial revolution. So what we are doing, we have just finished the industry days. We are trying to find out. I will tell you what was for me the most. It is of course the single market, because as we discussed it, what was the most surprising maybe for me during our discussion. Of course, we were discussing the digitalization, of course, and what we can do as a European Commission on data, on free flows of data, on artificial intelligence. By the way, in April we'll have communication on artificial intelligence. It is extremely important for our industry, for our 5G internet, for Internet of Things. Then we were talking about the skills. I'm putting it in the second place, but definitely for me is top. Skilling, reskilling, upskilling, everywhere. But of course we are talking about the European Union. Is the most important things. We cannot even imagine now I'm being 54. I cannot imagine, what kind of professions, what kind of new jobs will appear in 3, 5, 10 years' time, because this is such a speed. It's not 20 or 50. It's 3, 5, 10 years. So we need like a system, but of course this we must do with the member states, because we are not responsible for the educational system. So we proposed such a instrument at the regional level, because really industrial revolution, but also digitalization, innovation is going on somewhere, not in Brussels. It's going in, at the regional level, at local level. So we are trying to get together all of the stakeholders in European regions. So the industry, universities, local administration, regional administration, to discuss it, to have the fast response. When the new profession appears, to have immediately people there. Maybe I'm too long about this, but what surprised me, I will finish with this, of course, because we discussed also digitalization, innovation, skills, some other things. But the most important thing, and it appears, I think, for the first time, for me, publicly, at such gathering, it was about values, Many industrialists, many representatives of the companies were saying that we need, especially in this digital era, we need values, ethics, and we need this human perspective. I think this is important for us as humans to have not only think about robots and thinking about some disappearing jobs taken by robots. By the way, I think it's not true. As I said before, the new jobs will appear. We cannot even imagine what they will be and what kind of jobs it will be. So it will not like this, that the jobs will disappear and robots will take them. We must be better prepared for this. We must be well educated for this. So this is, but the values and ethics, and I think we should also. Me personally, I have it always in mind, but also proposing some new legislation and proposing some new things, and being very much obsessed or overloaded by data, by AI, by Internet of Things. We need to think about this human aspects of what we are doing, because it still will be humanity after this revolution.
Speaking of jobs, we have some quite concrete questions from Romania about how easy it is for a professional like a doctor or a teacher to work somewhere else within the EU.
It should be easy, but sometimes it's not. The professions that have, we have a list of professions that must be recognized in other member states in EU. But of course, for some professions, member states have their different requirements. And this is also what we are working with. For example, I was thinking, or we were discussing a few days ago, the teachers, which for me, for example, language teachers, for me it was the simplest things ever. Because if you teach languages, it means that you have your, I don't know, certificates or whatever, and you can teach the language anywhere you want. It's not such simple, because the profession of teachers in all member states is regulated. So you have to go through the probably recognition of your qualification as you are teacher, but as you are architect, doctor, nurse, and the others. Your qualifications need to be recognized in other member states. So it means that you should be, the market for you and the labor market for you should be open.
Okay. Lukasz on Twitter is asking a Brexit-related question, and whether you can conceive the UK staying within the single market after it leaves the EU?
Where to start? First, I say what I always, again, repeat, that UK was now it's, they are on their way to leave, so. But for the first 2 years of my mandate, it was my biggest supporter as far as the single market is concerned. Really, if you have, different concerns from member states, we have some protectionist measures and they want to protect their market. UK was always the most open market, and really all of my proposal, all of the Commission's proposal were supported by them. So this is one thing. The second thing, of course, negotiations are ongoing. And this is, I have to say it, this is in the British politicians' hands, really how they create their negotiating position. Why am I saying this? Because we, on our side, as a European Commission, we are prepared. We are prepared for this. We are prepared for these negotiations. Definitely, there will not be such a situation, of course. There will not be such a situation. I'm starting the sentence. I'm thinking too fast. So definitely there will not be. It will not be the same situation as it was before. So the customs union and the single market extremely important for. I'm sure. This is a statement for British economy. Definitely those two things are extremely important, both for Europe. But Europe, if it's strong in the single market, will still stay with 440 million consumers. Compare it to 60 million consumers in the UK. So this is, if you weight it, this will still be without UK will still be the biggest single market globally. But two things, they will never stay the same. Of course, we need, or our negotiators and British negotiator, they should find the best way. And I think that's more important. It's extremely important for Europe, but it's more important for the UK, because they will stay where they are. They will not change their geographical position. So their closest consumers, or the biggest consumer market for them, will be European Union. So it's really important for them and urgent to have their position on customs union and on single market. Without this, the situation will be completely different. I don't want to even think about it. For Brits.
Commissioner, we have a question as the EU is discussing the future budget, or the so-called multi-annual financial framework.
So-called.
What your view is on making EU funding conditional to certain issues like the respect of rule of law?
I can make a link to my previous life. I was regional policy and infrastructure minister back in Poland, and in this current budget, so-called MFF, in current budget we have a lot of conditionalities, starting from public procurement through environmental things, innovation. So we have a lot of conditionalities nowadays. And of course, now we have quite a new situation with some member states about, for example, rule of law. So I definitely think that some kind of conditionalities are natural, because if the money collected together by the member states are distributed then, and of course it's managed by the European Commission, there will always be some kind of conditionalities. What we need to do now is really to check whether those conditionalities are fit for purpose, fit for times in which we are living. Last week or 2 weeks ago, we sent a note to the Council, so to the national governments, how they think about it. But I think it has to be said. I don't want to really to discuss a case of the country, of my country, but definitely we need to think what kind of Europe. It's again a little bit beside the single market, but maybe not so far. What kind of Europe we want? Whether we want Europe when some member states want the money and they don't want to obey to the values that they subscribed under in the accession treaties. So this is very important questions, much wider than only or broader than only conditionalities. But the next aspect of the conditionalities for the under the money will be distributed, under which the money will be distributed, is whether we can do it fairly and technically well. So whether it's really, it can be done under current, legislation, I don't know. And that's why the Commission started the discussion on this. But for us, again, as a college, as a college of commissioners, the most important is that those things are really, that all of the member states can be equally touched and it can and addressed by this kind of thing. So this must be fair and just. And this is the most important thing, whether we and member states, of course, can do it.
Okay, it's an important debate on the future of the EU budget and a good time
and together with this future of the EU, because this is important part of our discussion. It's always like this, when you're starting to discuss the budget, then you are starting to discuss the single market, whether we want Europe of the single market or not. Because if you listen to politicians, okay, I'm commissioner. So if you listen to national leaders, mostly, let's put it like this, they always repeat how important single market is. That this is really base for our cooperation. That this is something that it's, the most, the best for Europe, the most valuable. But then, I have this experience now as a commissioner. As you propose something which is not really extremely ambitious or really extremely touching their interest or touching it a little bit, there in many member states you really crush yourself against the wall, unfortunately. So there is some discrepancy between the official statement and then what is happening on the ground. Now we have such a situation. We have really a package for the we call it services package for our companies to be in better situation as they want to provide services cross-border in other member states. Now it takes, I don't know, between 5 and 7 years to go cross-border with your services. Can you imagine this? 5 to 7 years. This is. So we try to make it a little bit shorter, not even maybe a little bit, because in our as we assess it with our proposal, it will last like 1.5, 2 years maybe just. But and then we discuss it. We'll see how it will look in the Council. So how member states will respond to our proposal. But still, it's a very difficult discussion.
Thank you. And on the EU budget, we have a public consultation running at the moment, and we would, of course, encourage you all to participate so that we can collect your views.
This is definitely the most important subject now.
Yep.
Really important for any area that we are working on, starting from innovation, research, I don't know, defense cooperation that has now been very at the top of the Commission's agenda, but not only in the Commission's for the Council, through energy, regional policy, and single market. So this is the best moment really to discuss it.
Now, going back to a very concrete issue, Jan from Poland is asking what you are doing to prevent a new Dieselgate or similar scandal from occurring and making sure that consumers are treated fairly.
We have proposed, and it was accepted by the Parliament and the Council. So the legal path is has been concluded in December. We have a new so-called type approval legislation for the member states. There were proposals, a lot of them, even from the European Parliament. Not maybe from the member states, but definitely from the European Parliament and other stakeholders, to have one agency at the European level to deal with the new cars, but also with the cars that are circulated on our roads. I think this is a much bigger problem than the new cars that are getting out of the factories. So we have a new system we have new type approval system. We can now check how the different institutions, type approval institutions in different member states, how they check the cars. This is the most important. But of course, still, So we have now much better and much more powerful and active tool in our hands as the European Commission, as diesel scandal or Dieselgate scandal started 2 years ago. It was, yes, 2 and something. We didn't have any tools in our hands, and of course I took the lead because I was asked for this by the member states, and I felt this responsibility that as I'm industrial commissioner, as I'm commissioner responsible also, among others, for the automotive industry, for the car industry, I have to take the lead. But I didn't have any legal tools in my hands. Still we do not have a tools for example, for the compensation for consumers. I was calling for this, and my colleague, Commissioner Jourova, she was also trying to really force some of European manufacturers to not to give our consumers the same compensation as they gave and are giving in the United States, but at least to have some compensation. This is their, basic market for European consumer. European Union is their basic market, not the others. And we are, as you know, we have not succeeded, unfortunately. But definitely we have new tools in our hands. So now there will not be such a situation that our hands will be completely tied and we will not be able to do anything if something like this happens. And by the way, our proposed new instrument, Single Market Information Tool, in such cases can be also it will be very helpful, hopefully, in the future.
Thank you. We're receiving a lot of very detailed questions about practical life examples, problems, moving to another country and so on, where we would encourage you to visit the Your Europe portal. We will post the link in both Facebook and Twitter because we won't be able to accommodate all questions now, but let's perhaps take one.
But definitely we will roll all of them and we will try to respond to all of them.
Absolutely.
You take your part, so be active looking on our website, because definitely it's not always easy. We try to make it easier and easier, but it's not always easy to find what you are looking for. But we will also try to respond to all of your questions.
Absolutely. And let's take one of these questions now by a Lucia or Lucia, depending on where she's from, who asks whether her university degree will be accepted in any EU country.
There is not a direct automatic recognition of the universities, but of course, European Union university diploma it's easy recognized in other member states. So it's not like automatically, but it's of course it's easy. As you probably I have also such a experience that people. For example, studying in some countries outside the EU, they are trying to move to EU, even to some smaller member states to conclude or to finish their education in EU, because it's of course much easier to have EU diploma in the EU. So it's not automatic, but it's of course easy.
Javor is asking on Facebook what the EU is doing to help poorer regions within the single market.
Oh. Lot. As I started with this, all of the work that the European Commission, not only in this mandate, European Commission together with the new member states accessing EU, all of the work that European Commission was doing and European institutions were doing is to really achieve the same level of standards of living and the same, wealthy. Of course, it's not easy. It will not take a while. I have again example from my country, on which economic position it was 2004 and now, and of course the strongest instrument is regional policy. I spent really many years of my professional life dealing with regional policy. And first, I want to say that this is really powerful tool. We try to combine it because the question was about the single market. We try to combine it now with the single market. For example, building, or we started 2 years ago with Jyrki Katainen and with Committee of the Region, such a new initiative which is called regional smart specialization. So they try to really first find out what are the regional smart specialization, and then to really attack, the problem, if there is a problem, from different perspectives. So from the single market perspective, regional policy, infrastructure, also European Social Fund, extremely important, because this I wanted to underline. Regional policy, which was designed or invented especially for the poorer regions, is really a wonderful tool. I'm now a little bit separated from this, so of course I still have some emotions, but I'm a little bit separated. I can see it even clearer, that really with the regional policy, constructed well and then implemented well, you can really attack, as I said, attack the problem which you have at the regional level with different instruments. This is not only infrastructure. This is not support for the companies. This is not support for research and innovation and development, but also you can really, again, I use this word, attack the problem of the labor market with the European Social Fund. So this is a combination of different tools, because only in such way you can really resolve the problem that you have. This is not only never one-fold problem. This is always a combination of the things that are happening on the ground. So we are trying now very actively really to discuss also with our colleagues from the regional policy department how to combine the tools that we have as a single market services with their activities.
Thank you. I'm afraid that we have to wrap up here. Thank you, all the many viewers.
It was so fast.
Yes,
I thought
when you have fun.
I was a little bit stressed, talking to cameras, but okay.
Thank you for the very rich discussion with very different, varied topics. Let us reassure you again that we'll be answering and writing as many as possible. Commissioner Bieńkowska, any final words for our viewers?
I hope that I raise, at least in some of you, the interest for the single market. Because as I said at the very beginning, this is not given for granted. Especially now, we really need to have this information and have this knowledge, what it really means. And then, I will again use this military expression, and fight with all of the protectionism that is appearing somewhere in Europe. Because I definitely believe that this is the tool for the future, the most powerful and the strongest we have. So let's do it together. Okay. I finish like this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.